Welcome back to It's Fire for Me. I'm Jesse, and this is my wife Kim, and today is another Frugal Friday, where today we're recording from our kitchen, as this Frugal Friday has to do with recipes. Kim, what's this week about?
So we are on Chapter 7 of The Art of Frugal Hedonism by Annie Razor Rowland with Adam Grubb. And Chapter 7 is Have an Open Relationship with Recipes. You encounter the concept of the latest famous chef's pine nut studded hotcakes with caramelized compote and feel a sudden passion to possess it, just like the one in the picture. It may almost feel important, as if your life would be a better life with that dish in it, a meal that someone has bothered to write about and place in a shaft of sunlight on a scrubbed wooden table to photograph. It probably is quite yummy too. But be warned, dear reader, make a frequent habit of faithful recipe replication and you will spend oodles on one-off ingredients, many of which will have exactly 2.5 teaspoons removed from the jar before swiftly segueing from essential to moldering in the back of the fridge. The frugal hedonist chooses a culinary path of more flair and independence. Develop some cooking instincts and then base your meals on whatever happens to be in season, cheap, or in the cupboard right now. Go totally freestyle, or if you do like to use recipes, learn to substitute. No breadcrumbs to help bind your meatballs. Grind some oats in a blender and use those instead. No apple cider vinegar, but plenty of lemons. Lemon juice plus a pinch of sugar will probably be just fine. Most deliciousness is a push and pull between sweet, sour, and salty elements with a tasty fat to carry the flavor and to help you absorb the nutrients. Also consider including something with bitter notes to cut richness or an umami component to give robust savoriness, and things will usually turn out scrumptiously. If all that fails, grill some extra cheese on the top. This is how all the fancy stuff gets invented anyway. Italian peasant Z did not decide to squeeze the juice of unripe grapes onto meat so that it could later be marketed in small bottles as verjuice and make lots of dosh for gourmet food companies. Peasant Z did it because they recognized that their dinner would taste better with a sour note and had nothing else acidic on hand. Your authors find that our own cuisine escalates in sublimeness the more we come to rely on the random. A harvest of chestnuts and underripe apples lead to a fabulous goat chestnut and tart apple stew. A yen for Earl Grey tea provokes experiments with steeping a sprig of thyme in regular tea, which turns out to be super nice. We do use recipes for learning. A good trick is to find 3 recipes for something similar to what you want to make. Then see where they overlap to give you a rough idea of proportions. For example, we had lots of nettles and potatoes in the garden, and some halloumi that needed using, so we looked up a few gnocchi recipes to get a feel for ratios and essential preparation techniques. If we hadn't already had the flour called for by all 3 gnocchi recipes, we would have just made a fry-up with our ingredients instead. Recipes are also good for trying out whole new flavor combinations that use the raw ingredients you find yourself within even more artful ways. Green tomato pie, anyone? But basically, in the words attributed to Charlie Parker, master your instrument, master the music, and then forget all that stuff and just play. You'll know you've gotten there when you have friends coming for dinner and you make a gravy that involves Vegemite with complete confidence that no one will notice. And then they give us a Vegemite gravy recipe. I am under the impression that Vegemite is similar to maybe Spam or something in Australia, maybe. But Vegemite isn't a product that we use here in the U.S.
So,
you know, I have a friend who is really good about having an open relationship with recipes, and she knows kind of the science behind how to make something that's too sweet be a little bit more savory, or something that's too savory have a little tartness to it, and how to like experiment with different types of oils and sauces to make things just have more flavor and more pop. And I'm always so impressed with her skill in doing that. I find that that's not something that I obtain naturally. I am someone who follows a very clear recipe, but there are a few things that I can kind of practice this with. One of them would be like fried rice, for example. If we have leftover rice, you can basically take like whatever else you happen to have and kind of make that into fried rice. And I do the same thing with like tofu scrambles for breakfast.
Yeah. Were you talking about Danielle?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stories that you've told me about, maybe they've gotten some takeout food that they didn't really enjoy the flavors of, she won't just throw it away. She'll take it the next day for breakfast or lunch, and she'll take those ingredients in that, and she'll add her own spices or other, ingredients to it to make it something either similar or completely different into another meal. And I think that's a great frugal tip, to be able to salvage something that maybe you didn't like the flavor profile of. Someone else I think that's really good at this with specifically sauces is our brother-in-law James. He is kind of our sauce king around the house. You can't always get vegan sauces, and so we make a lot of our own sauces for different meals and whatnot, and we always lean on James to kind of flavor those sauces to the right taste. So when we're doing Asian, he'll make our yum yum sauce, and mix some mayonnaise and some sriracha and whatever else he throws in there. And for some reason, when he makes that, he seems to really be able to kind of understand what adding different ingredients will do for it. So.
Yeah, I don't remember what I did the other day, but I added coconut aminos to something for who knows what reason, and then I tasted it and I thought, nope, this is bad. This doesn't taste like what I was going for, and I had no idea of like, what do I need to add to change this flavor profile? And so James came up and he tasted it, and he added some magical things to it, and then it ended up tasting exactly like I had
a corn
wanted.
salsa or something you were trying to make.
Yeah.
And somehow you had taken it the wrong direction
Yeah.
and didn't know which way to go from there. And he was able to bring it back and save it so that we could eat the corn salsa. So it's definitely a technique that if you can figure out and understand what different types of foods bring to the table, I think it can definitely save a meal, or even save a meal that you didn't prepare in the first place with Danielle and her takeout. I think that is kind of a cool way to be able to change something up. Or maybe you make something the same way every time and you're getting tired of the way that tastes. Understanding how food works and whatnot can really change the way that you make that meal, and maybe it can become a whole new thing. So
Rachel does this, my sister Rachel does this a lot when she's baking. She'll have 3 different recipes that she's looked at to kind of get the general concept of how maybe Indian naan bread is made, for example, but she likes certain elements of one recipe and not another, so she kind of comes up with her own based on those 3 things.
Yeah.
I have actually gotten pretty good at substituting out vegan replacements for non-vegan things. So if I find a non-vegan recipe but I have some vegan ingredients that I could try instead, I've actually kind of gotten more comfortable doing that on a regular basis. But I definitely admire people who can just look at what they have in the pantry and somehow create a meal out of it, because that's never been something that I have ever really dipped my toes in that water, so to speak.
Sure. So how about you guys? What do you guys do to kind of spice things up in the recipe department? And do you come up with your own recipes? Do you follow recipes directly exactly as they're made? And what type of things have you learned in this area? We'd love to hear and learn more for ourselves. So comment down below with those items, and we'll try to reply to as many of them as we can get to. Anything else you'd like to add, Kim?
I think that's it.
All right, a short one for this week. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in next week's video.
Happy cooking.
Bye.